The stars twinkled peacefully above the lunar observatory. Lieutenant Alan West stared at his monitor, running routine scans of deep space. It was his third year stationed on the moon, and most days were quiet. Today was not most days. "Sir, I'm picking up something unusual," Alan said, calling over his supervisor. Commander Patel rushed to his station. "What have you got, West?" "A signal, sir. It's not one of ours." Alan's fingers flew across the keyboard. "It's not following any human communication pattern I've ever seen." Commander Patel's eyes widened. "Are you saying—" "Yes, sir. I believe we're detecting our first confirmed alien transmission." Within hours, the news spread across Earth. Governments convened emergency meetings. Scientists analyzed the signal continuously. Regular citizens looked up at the sky with a mixture of hope and fear. The signal grew stronger over the next 3 days. Then, without warning, a massive ship appeared in Earth orbit. It was unlike anything humans had built. Smooth, silver, and at least 5 times larger than the International Space Station. Alan watched from the lunar surface as smaller ships launched from the larger vessel and headed toward Earth. The first contact between humanity and alien life was about to happen. In her laboratory in Colorado, Susan Miller couldn't tear her eyes from the television. As the lead physicist for America's experimental faster-than-light drive project, she understood what this meant. Aliens had mastered the technology she'd spent her life trying to develop. "They're landing at the United Nations," her assistant said, turning up the volume. The world watched as the sleek alien craft touched down in New York. A door opened, and out stepped creatures that walked on 2 legs, but looked nothing like humans. Their skin was pale blue, their heads elongated, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They wore flowing robes embedded with lights that pulsed in patterns. "I am High Counselor Zex Tara of the Valtid species," the leader announced, its voice translated through a device on its chest. "We represent the Galactic Council, the governing body of civilized space. We have come to welcome Earth to the galactic community." Cheers erupted around the world. Susan felt tears in her eyes. Humanity was not alone. In Washington, D.C., Diplomat O. Greg Foster straightened his tie before entering the State Department's emergency meeting. As an expert in international relations, he'd been called in to help draft Earth's response to the aliens. "This is the most important moment in human history," the Secretary of State told the room. "We need to put our best foot forward." Greg nodded, but something bothered him. "Has anyone asked what exactly this Galactic Council wants from us?" The room fell silent. Over the next week, representatives from the Galactic Council met with Earth's leaders. They spoke of peace, cooperation, and cultural exchange. They offered medical knowledge that could cure diseases and promised to help humans develop cleaner energy sources. But Greg noticed they avoided specific questions about their technology and political system. When he pressed one alien representative about their faster-than-light travel, the alien changed the subject. Alan West returned to Earth for a special briefing at NASA headquarters. The aliens had requested tours of human space facilities. "Be open and welcoming," his superiors told him. "But remember, you represent humanity. Make us proud." The aliens who visited the NASA facility moved with confidence. They asked detailed questions about Earth's space capabilities, resource stockpiles, and defense systems. Alan followed protocol but felt increasingly uneasy. "Your species has advanced quickly," one alien told him, "but there are dangers in the galaxy you don't understand." "What kind of dangers?" Alan asked. "Unstable civilizations, species who develop technology before they're ready." The aliens' 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "The Council prevents such threats." Susan Miller was thrilled when the aliens visited her laboratory. Finally, she could ask about the physics principles that might make faster-than-light travel possible. But instead of discussing science, the aliens inspected her equipment closely. "This research is more advanced than we expected," one said to another in what they thought was a private exchange. But Susan's assistant had turned on the translation device. The next day, Council ships landed at major research centers around the world. This time, they weren't alone. Heavily armored aliens with weapons marched out. For the safety and stability of the galaxy, High Counselor Zex Terra announced in a worldwide broadcast, the Galactic Council must temporarily assume guidance over Earth's technological development. Certain dangerous research must be suspended. Susan watched in horror as aliens entered her lab, disconnected her equipment, and began loading it onto their ships. "You can't do this," she shouted. "This is my life's work." An alien guard pushed her back. "Council protocols must be followed. Your species isn't ready for this technology." Similar scenes played out across the planet. Space programs were shut down, advanced weapons research confiscated, computer networks placed under alien supervision. Greg Foster was called to an emergency United Nations session where Zexatara presented the Earth Cooperation Agreement. It called for Earth to provide resources to the Council in exchange for protection and guidance. "This isn't cooperation," Greg whispered to his colleague. "This is surrender." But Earth's leaders, intimidated by displays of alien power and promises of eventual technological rewards, signed the agreement. Within a month, Earth's political structure transformed. The alien-appointed Earth Cooperation Administration now governed above all national governments. Council ships hovered over major cities. Alien advisors directed human activity. When protests broke out in London, alien enforcers used sonic weapons that left hundreds hospitalized. The message was clear: resistance would not be tolerated. Alan West stood in the rain outside NASA headquarters, now controlled by Council representatives. His access badge had been revoked. Earth's space program now existed only to help aliens, extract resources from the moon and orbital stations. His phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "Not all accept these chains. Meet tomorrow. Delete this message." Across the country, Susan Miller packed a small bag in her apartment. After watching aliens take her research and her colleagues' research, she knew the truth. This wasn't cultural exchange or protection. It was conquest. Her computer pinged with an encrypted message. "Your skills are needed for what comes next." In Washington, Greg Foster smiled and nodded at his new alien supervisors while secretly copying files detailing Council resource extraction plans. The documents showed the truth. Earth was being systematically stripped of valuable materials while humans were kept under control. As night fell across America, 3 strangers began journeys toward an uncertain future, united by the realization that humanity had not been welcomed to the stars. They had been enslaved, and they would not accept these chains. 5 years passed since the Galactic Council arrived on Earth. What began as a supposed welcome to the galactic community had become clear oppression. Earth's resources flowed steadily to Council ships, while humans worked longer hours under worsening conditions. Alan West no longer wore his lieutenant's uniform. His beard had grown long and scars crossed his hands from years of fighting. He moved silently through the forest of the Appalachian Mountains, approaching a hidden entrance set into the hillside. 2 guards nodded as he approached. "Any trouble, Chief?" "Nothing today," Alan replied. "But Council patrols are increasing in the valley." Inside the mountain base, dozens of people worked at salvaged computers and makeshift equipment. Maps of Council installations covered the walls. This was the heart of Free Terra, the largest human resistance group fighting against alien control. Alan entered the main planning room where his most trusted lieutenants waited. "How did the raid go in Boston?" he asked. "We got the medical supplies," said Jack Ryan, a former police officer. "Lost 2 people getting out. Council enforcers are using new tracking devices." Alan closed his eyes briefly. Every loss hurt. Every name was remembered. "We need better weapons," he said. "We can't keep fighting sonic cannons with rifles." "That's where our inside source might help," Jack said. She sent a new message. Inside a Council research facility in Nevada, Susan Miller carefully adjusted her experiment. Council overseers watched scientists at all times, forcing them to adapt alien technology for Earth resource extraction. Susan had been assigned to improve mining equipment efficiency. What her alien supervisors didn't know was that every piece of Council technology she touched taught her something about their weaknesses. Today, she was secretly testing how Council Communications reacted to specific electromagnetic frequencies. "Progress, human?" asked the vaulted overseer, hovering behind her. "Yes, overseer," Susan replied, quickly switching her display to show the mining data. "Efficiency is up 7%. Acceptable. Continue." The alien moved on. Susan waited until it left the room before typing a quick message into what appeared to be routine code. In reality, it connected to an encrypted network that Alan West had established. Her message was simple. "Found frequency that disrupts enforcer communications. Details follow." In Washington, D.C., Greg Foster straightened his tie before entering the Earth Cooperation Administration headquarters. As a senior human administrator, he had risen high in the puppet government. Council representatives trusted him to manage human affairs efficiently. They didn't know he documented every council directive, every shipment of Earth resources, every new restriction on human freedoms. His position gave him access to information the resistance desperately needed. Today he would attend a high-level meeting with council leadership. He nodded to the alien guards as he passed through security. They barely looked at him now, so confident in their control. In the meeting room, several human administrators sat with 4 vaulted council representatives. One stood to address the group. "The council has reviewed Earth's productivity and population metrics," the alien began. "We find the current situation unsustainable. There are too many humans for the resources required by the council." Greg felt. His heart beat faster but kept his face neutral. "What do you propose?" he asked calmly. "Population management must begin," the alien replied. "We will implement fertility restrictions immediately. Additionally, unproductive population centers will have food allocations reduced." Greg took notes, appearing cooperative. Inside, his mind raced. The council was planning to starve people. He needed to warn the resistance. That night, in a basement apartment in Chicago, Lisa Daniels hunched over a collection of modified computer equipment. Once a cybersecurity specialist for a major bank, she now used her skills to intercept council communications for Free Terra. Her system pinged, indicating a new transmission. Usually, she found routine orders and shipment schedules. This time was different. The transmission came from beyond Earth, from another star system. Lisa's hands trembled as she decoded the message. It wasn't from the council, but appeared to be from another subjugated species. They called themselves the Neverends, and they had been fighting the council for nearly 100 years. "They're not alone," she whispered. "We're not alone." The next morning, Alan West called an emergency meeting after receiving Lisa's report. "If this is real," he said, "it changes everything. Other species are fighting back." "How do we know it's not a council trap?" Jack asked. "We don't," Alan admitted. But Lisa verified the transmission came from the Proxima Centauri system, not from any known council facility. "What do these Neverends want?" someone asked. "To share information. They've been fighting the council longer than us. They might know weaknesses we haven't discovered." After debate, they decided to respond to the message. It was a risk, but they needed allies. Meanwhile, Susan Miller made a breakthrough. Council weapons and ships relied on a specific crystalline technology that was vulnerable to precisely modulated electromagnetic pulses. Human electronics, more primitive but different in design, wouldn't be affected by the same pulses. She needed to get this information to Alan, but security had tightened. Her usual communication method might be compromised. Greg Foster learned of a plan to begin population reductions in what the council called high-consumption urban zones, major cities where resistance activity was highest. The plan would begin in just 3 weeks. Time was running out. Greg needed to get this intelligence to Free Terra immediately, even if it meant risking his cover. Lisa Daniels established regular communication with the Neverend resistance. They revealed a stunning truth. Earth wasn't targeted randomly. The Council had been monitoring humans for decades, concerned about their rapid technological development and violent tendencies. "They fear you," the Neverend message explained. No species has developed as quickly as humans. The Council believes if left unchecked, humans would eventually challenge their power. This information spread through resistance cells worldwide, igniting new determination. Humanity wasn't just fighting for freedom, they were fighting because their potential terrified their oppressors. After months of planning, Free Terra launched its first major offensive. Their target, a Council supply depot where weapons and technology were stored before distribution to enforcer units. Alan led the operation himself, guiding 20 fighters through sewers to emerge beneath the facility. Susan's intelligence had identified a weakness in the security system that gave them a 3-minute window to enter undetected. Inside, they found more than weapons. They discovered sealed containers with strange markings. When they forced one open, they found vials of human blood samples and tissue specimens carefully labeled. "What is this?" Jack whispered, holding up a vial. Alan examined a nearby computer terminal. His blood ran cold as he translated the Council text. "These are heading to bioweapon facilities," he said quietly. "They're studying us, looking for weaknesses, ways to control us more permanently." As alarms began to sound, Alan gave the order. "Take everything you can carry. The world needs to know what they're planning." The raid marked a turning point. Humans weren't just resisting anymore, they were fighting back. And they weren't alone in the galaxy. 2 years passed since Free Terra's raid on the Council depot. What began as a small resistance movement had grown into a global underground network. Council enforcers faced attacks weekly. Human courage grew as fear diminished. Alan West, no longer, stayed in one place for long. He commanded Free Terra from a mobile base that changed location every few days. Today it was a converted subway station beneath Old Detroit. "Reports from Europe are good," said Jack, pointing to a digital map. "The Paracel disabled a Council patrol ship yesterday. No human casualties." Alan nodded. "And the communication equipment we took last month?" "Lisa has it working," I replied. "She says we can now contact resistance cells anywhere on Earth without the Council detecting us." This was important progress. For too long, resistance groups had worked independently, unable to coordinate large actions. Now they could fight as one. A young woman entered the command room. "Sir, Susan Miller has arrived." Alan's face showed surprise. "Here? In person?" Susan had been their most valuable source inside Council research facilities. Her leaving her position was dangerous but must be important. Susan Miller looked thinner than Alan remembered. Dark circles showed beneath her eyes, but her gaze remained sharp and determined. "I couldn't send this through normal channels," she said, placing a small device on the table. "The Council would detect it." "What is it?" Alan asked. "Everything. I've learned about their technology in 7 years," Susan explained. "And something more important, how to fight back effectively." Susan activated the device, showing diagrams of Council weapons and ships. "Their technology works on principles very different from ours," she said. "They use crystalline matrices for information storage and transmission. These matrices are vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies." "We already knew that," Alan said. "Your earlier intelligence helped us develop disruptors for their communication systems. This is bigger," Susan continued. "I've found a way to create a cascading failure in all their systems simultaneously. A virus of sorts that could disable every Council ship and weapon in Earth orbit." The room fell silent. This wasn't just defense or small-scale sabotage. This was a way to actually win. "The Council discovered I was accessing restricted systems," Susan said. "I barely escaped. They're looking for me now." In Washington, D.C., Greg Foster walked quickly through a park. Council surveillance was everywhere now, but this area had blind spots he had carefully mapped. A maintenance worker approached, sitting on the same bench. Without looking at each other, they spoke quietly. "The Council suspects someone in the administration is leaking information," Greg said. "They're implementing new loyalty tests next week. Can you pass them?" the resistance contact asked. "Maybe, but my access may become more limited." Greg passed a small data stick hidden in a newspaper. This contains details of something called the Human Conformity Initiative. It's worse than population reduction. They plan to genetically modify future generations of humans to be more docile. The contact took the newspaper. We've made contact with other species fighting the Council. You should know you've helped more than just humans. Greg allowed himself a small smile before walking away. His next meeting was with High Counselor Zexitara himself, a dangerous honor. In a converted warehouse in Seattle, Lisa Daniels worked with equipment salvaged from Council ships. Her communication station connected resistance cells worldwide and maintained contact with their alien allies. "Message from the Neverons," her assistant called. "They say it's urgent." Lisa moved to the console. The Neverons had become valuable allies, sharing centuries of knowledge about fighting the Council. Their messages usually contained technical information or strategic advice. This was different. Warning: Council High Command has authorized deployment of genetic suppression weapons to Earth. Time frame 30 Earth days. Lisa's hands trembled as she sent urgent messages to all resistance commanders. This matched what Greg had discovered. The Council was moving forward with their plan to fundamentally alter humanity. Later that day, resistance leaders from around the world gathered in a secure video conference. Alan West spoke first. "We all know what's at stake now. The Council isn't just occupying Earth. They plan to change what it means to be human." "Susan's weapon is our best hope," Jack added. "But we need access to the Council's main communication hub to deploy it effectively." A resistance leader from Brazil spoke up. "That hub is in their orbital command station. We can't reach it." "Actually, we can," Lisa said. "The Neverends have provided specifications for Council shuttlecraft. If we can capture one, we could reach the station." The plan took shape quickly. Teams worldwide would create diversions. A small strike force would capture a Council shuttle during a moment of confusion. Susan would accompany them to deploy her virus directly into the communication hub. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but they had run out of options. In the following weeks, resistance cells worldwide prepared. Weapons were distributed. Fighters, trained for specific roles. Greg provided security protocols and access codes for Council facilities. Then, unexpected news arrived. A Council ship had captured Greg Foster. He was being held aboard the orbital command station, scheduled for public execution as a traitor to demonstrate the consequences of resistance. "This changes things," Alan told his commanders. "Greg knows everything, our networks, our plans, our weaknesses. If they break him..." "They will," Susan said quietly. "Their mind extraction technology is very effective. We need to move immediately." "We're not ready," Jack argued. "We have no choice," Alan replied. "We launch tomorrow. New objective: disable the communication hub and rescue Greg Foster." That night, as the strike team prepared, Lisa received another message from their Neveran allies. Council High Command suspects coordinated human resistance activity. Additional battleships dispatched to Earth. Arrival in 5 days. The situation had become even more desperate. They would have only one chance. The next morning, 20 resistance fighters gathered in an abandoned airfield where their scouts had detected a Council shuttle landing for maintenance. Susan carried her viral device in a protected case. Alan checked his weapon one last time. "Remember," he told the team, "once we're aboard the station, we'll have minutes, not hours, before they know we're there. Stay focused on your objectives." As the Council shuttle appeared in the sky, Alan felt a moment of doubt. Were they truly ready to challenge the Council directly? Could humanity really break free? Then he remembered what was at stake. Not just freedom, but humanity's very nature, their right to determine their own future. "Positions," he ordered. "Let's show the Council what humans are really capable of." The shuttle descended, unaware that below, the most important mission in human history was about to begin. The Council shuttle landed at the abandoned airfield, its engines humming softly. 2 vault-hid technicians emerged, scanning the area with handheld devices. They noticed nothing unusual. The resistance fighters had hidden themselves well. Alan gave the signal. Fighters armed with electromagnetic pulse weapons fired simultaneously. The aliens dropped instantly as their communication devices and weapons failed. "Move quickly," Alan ordered. "We have 5 minutes before they're expected to report back." The team rushed forward. Jack and 2 others secured the unconscious aliens while Susan examined the shuttle's entry hatch. "Standard Council security," she said, attaching a device she had built. 3, 2, 1. The hatch opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the shuttle was larger than it appeared from outside. Strange crystalline controls glowed along the walls. Susan moved directly to the pilot station. "I can operate this," she said, studying the controls. "The principles are similar to the research vessels I worked with." The team strapped themselves into seats designed for taller alien bodies. Susan activated the engines, and the shuttle rose smoothly into the air. "Keep us low until we're away from populated areas," Alan said. "Then maximum acceleration. We need to reach the station before they realize this shuttle has been captured." As they flew higher, Earth spread out below them. Many had never seen their planet from this perspective before. Cities showed dark patches where council restrictions had cut power. Huge mining operations scarred once beautiful landscapes. "Remember what we're fighting for," Alan said quietly. The shuttle accelerated upward, breaking through clouds, then the upper atmosphere. The blue sky darkened to black. Stars appeared. And there, growing larger by the second, was the Council's orbital command station. It was massive, a spinning wheel of metal and crystal with Council ships docking at various points. This was the heart of Earth's occupation, where all orders originated. "Incoming transmission," Susan warned. "They're requesting identification." She activated the response system she had prepared, sending forged authorization codes. Seconds passed, intense silence. "Docking clearance granted," she finally said. "They believe we're returning for scheduled maintenance." The shuttle approached a docking port on the outer ring of the station. With careful precision, Susan guided it into position. Metal clamps secured the shuttle with a dull thud. "Prepare yourselves," Alan said. "Once we're inside, we split into 3 teams. Susan and I will head for the communication hub. Jack, your team will find and free Greg. The rest will secure our escape route." Everyone checked their weapons 1-2. Last time, they carried modified human firearms and electromagnetic disruptors built using Susan's designs. Against Council technology, they were surprisingly effective. The station's artificial gravity pulled at them as they entered through the airlock. The corridors were tall and wide, designed for vaulted bodies. Lights pulsed along crystalline walls, in patterns human eyes found disorienting. "Security cameras," Susan whispered, pointing to small floating orbs in the ceiling. "They'll detect us in seconds." On cue, alarms began blaring. A voice spoke in the vaulted language, then switched to English. "Intruder alert. All security personnel to docking ring 7. "So much for surprise," Jack muttered. "We need to move. Fast." The team separated at a junction. Jack's team headed downward toward the detention level. The security team moved to create diversions. Alan and Susan, accompanied by 3 fighters, rushed toward the central hub. 2 vault-hid security officers appeared ahead, raising sonic weapons. Alan fired first. His electromagnetic pulse caused their weapons to spark and fail. The fighters, behind him, rushed forward, subduing the stunned aliens. "How much farther?" Alan asked as they ran. 2 more levels up," Susan replied, consulting a small device. "The main communication array is at the center of the station." Meanwhile, Jack's team encountered heavy resistance near the detention area. Council enforcers had established defensive positions, using metal shields that blocked electromagnetic pulses. "We need another approach," Jack told his team. He studied the station schematics Lisa had provided. "There. Maintenance access. We can bypass them." As they crawled through narrow maintenance tunnels, they heard something moving ahead. Jack raised his weapon, then lowered it in shock. The figure wasn't vault-hid. It was a reptilian creature with copper-colored scales. "Nevaran?" Jack whispered. The alien blinked vertical eyelids. "Free Terra?" It responded in accented English. "Yes," Jack said. "We're trying to reach the detention level." "I will guide you," the Neverend said. "I am Thexalor. My people sent me to help coordinate our efforts." Jack hadn't expected to meet their alien allies here, but he welcomed the help. The Neverand led them through passages that weren't on their maps. In the central levels of the station, Alan and Susan fought their way forward. Council security grew, heavier as they approached the communication hub. "They know what we're trying to do," Alan said as they took cover from weapons fire. Susan nodded. "The hub is through that doorway. I need 3 minutes at the main console to upload the virus." "We'll give you those minutes," Alan promised. He turned to the fighters with them. "Covering fire on my mark." The battle that followed was fierce. Alan and the fighters drew fire while Susan made her run to the doorway. Energy blasts scorched the walls around them. One fighter fell, his leg badly wounded. Another moved to help him. Susan reached the door, worked her device on the lock, and disappeared inside. Alan continued firing, keeping the Vault-Hid security forces pinned down. His weapon grew hot in his hands. On the detention level, Jack and Thexler found the cells. Most contained humans, scientists, government officials, and resistance fighters, captured over the years. One cell held 3 Neverends. "Greg Foster?" Jack called as they began opening cells. "Here," came a weak voice from the end of the corridor. Greg looked thin and pale, but his eyes still showed determination. "You shouldn't have come," he said as Jack opened his cell. "It's a trap. They knew you'd try to rescue me." "What do you mean?" Jack asked. Before Greg could answer, a new alarm sounded. Thexler hissed in alarm. "Station lockdown," the Neverend explained. "All sections will be sealed in 60 seconds. They needed to move quickly. Jack organized the freed prisoners while Thexler led them toward the escape route. Greg stumbled, still weak from imprisonment. "The council was waiting for you," he said to Jack as they hurried. "They want to capture your leaders, and they know about Susan's virus." In the communication hub, Susan worked frantically at the alien, a console. Her years studying council technology had prepared her for this moment. The virus she had created would spread through the crystalline network, causing cascading failures in all connected council systems. 30 seconds, she muttered to herself. The upload was taking longer than expected. Through the door, she heard the battle intensifying. Alan couldn't hold them off much longer. A final sequence, a confirmation signal, and "It's done," she called. As if in response, the lights in the station flickered. Control panels sparked. The council's computer systems began to fail. In the corridor, Alan saw the Vault-Hid enforcers suddenly clutch at their helmets as their communication systems overloaded, their weapons powered down. "Susan, we need to go," he shouted. She emerged from the hub, smiling. "It's spreading through their network. Every council ship connected to this station will be affected." They ran toward the rendezvous point, hoping to meet Jack's team. Throughout the station, systems failed in cascading patterns. Emergency lights cast red glows through the corridors. When they reached the docking area, they found Jack, Greg, and dozens of freed prisoners waiting. Thexalor stood with 3 other Neverends. "The virus worked," Susan told them, "but we need to leave before they restore manual controls." As they boarded the shuttle, a powerful voice echoed through the station. "Humans, you believe you have won a victory today." Alan recognized the voice of High Counselor Zex Terra. "But know this. The full might of the Galactic Council approaches Earth. What you have done here only ensures your planet's complete subjugation." The shuttle detached from the station as systems continued to fail around them. As they accelerated, away they saw other council ships drifting, their engines dark. "Did we do it?" one of the fighters asked. "Is Earth free?" Alan looked at Susan. She shook her head. "We've won a battle," she said. "But Zextara is right. The council has more ships, more resources. They'll send everything they have now." "Greg." Foster, leaning heavily against a wall, spoke up. "Then we need to be ready for them, because they're not just coming to retake Earth." "What do you mean?" Alan asked. "They're coming to end humanity. Greg said. Forever. The Resistance shuttle returned to Earth with its precious cargo of freed prisoners. News of their successful mission spread quickly. For the first time in years, humans celebrated openly in the streets. Council enforcers, cut off from their orbital command, retreated to secure compounds. But Alan West knew the celebration was premature. In the underground command center beneath Chicago, he gathered Earth's resistance leaders along with representatives from their alien allies. The virus worked better than we hoped, Susan Miller explained to the assembled group. Council ships throughout the solar system are disabled. Their communication network is down. How long until they recover? Someone asked. Days, maybe weeks, Susan replied. But we have a bigger problem. She displayed images from deep space monitoring stations. Council reinforcements are coming, at least 20 battleships, led by High Counselor Zexatara's personal warship. The room fell silent. Even with their recent success, humans had no weapons capable of stopping such a force. Greg Foster, still recovering from his imprisonment, spoke up. While in captivity, I learned something important. The Council isn't just a political entity. It's controlled by only 3 species, the Valthid, the Morvani, and the Dresh. All other species, even those who act as enforcers, are subjugated. Thexlor, the Neveran who had helped them on the station, nodded. For thousands of years, these 3 species have ruled through deception. Many serving the Council don't know the truth. How does this help us? Alan asked. Lisa Daniels, who had been monitoring communications, looked up from her console. If we could broadcast the truth to all Council ships? Exactly, Greg said. Most Council enforcers believe they're part of a democratic galactic union. If they learned they were simply pawns, a plan began to form. Using the communication codes Greg had obtained, they would broadcast evidence of Council atrocities and deception. Meanwhile, they would prepare Earth's defenses for the coming attack. Over the next week, humans worldwide worked together with newfound purpose. Susan led teams adapting Council technology from captured ships. Factories that had been forced to produce resources for the Council now built weapons. Lisa established communication with resistance movements on other subjugated worlds. As news of Earth's successful strike spread, others began to rise up. The Neverans launched attacks on Council outposts in their system. The Pelvic, a gentle species from a gas giant moon, sabotaged the Council's fuel processing centers. Alan coordinated it all from the Chicago Command Center, barely sleeping as reports came in from around the world and across space. Earth's fate would be decided soon, and they needed every advantage. 7 days after the station attack, the sensors detected the Council fleet entering the solar system. 23 ships, each larger than anything humans had built, approached with methodical precision. They'll reach Earth orbit in 6 hours, Susan reported. Alan nodded. Begin the broadcast. Throughout the Council fleet on occupied worlds, and even on the Council homeworlds, communication systems suddenly carried an unexpected message. Greg Foster's face appeared on screens, speaking calmly and clearly. To all beings serving the Galactic Council, he began. For centuries, you've been told you are part of a democratic union of worlds. This is a lie. The broadcast continued, showing evidence of Council atrocities, secret directives, and the true power structure that benefited only 3 species. It showed how the Council had systematically stripped resources from dozens of worlds while keeping their populations controlled. On Earth, Susan Miller coordinated the defense. Captured Council weapons had been modified and positioned. Fighters stood ready, but everyone knew they were outmatched. First ships entering orbit, a technician announced. On screens, they watched as the massive Council vessels formed a blockade around Earth. At the center was Zextara's warship, twice the size of the others. Their powering weapons. Someone, called Alan, took a deep breath. Launch our ships. From hidden bases around the planet, hundreds of small craft rose to meet the Council fleet. Some were captured Council shuttles, others were human vessels modified with alien technology. All carried weapons designed by Susan using her knowledge of Council vulnerabilities. The space battle began. Council ships fired energy weapons that lit up Earth's atmosphere. Human ships responded with targeted strikes at weak points Susan had identified. To everyone's surprise, 3 Council destroyers suddenly turned their weapons on other Council ships. The broadcast was working. Some Council enforcers were changing sides. In orbit above North America, Alan piloted a modified Council shuttle. Beside him sat Susan, Thexlor, and a small strike team. Their target, Zextara's warship. "This is suicide," one of the team muttered. "Maybe," Alan admitted. "But if we can capture or kill Zextara, the Council might fracture." Their shuttle approached the massive warship, avoiding detection by using codes Greg had provided. They docked at a maintenance port and entered silently. Fighting through the ship was difficult. Unlike the station, security remained fully operational here. But the team pushed forward, determined to reach the command center. When they finally broke through to the bridge, High Counselor Zextara was waiting. The vaulted leader stood taller than other members of his species, his robes shimmering with embedded technology. "Humans," he said, his translator making his voice sound almost bored. "Your persistence is remarkable but futile." Alan raised his weapon. "It's over, Zextara. Your fleet is divided. Your secrets are exposed." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You think this matters? The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. We have survived rebellions before." "Not like this one," Susan said, stepping forward. "You made a mistake with humans. You studied us enough to fear us, but not enough to understand us." "We understand perfectly," Zextara replied. "Your species develops technology faster than any we've encountered. Left unchecked, you would have challenged Council rule within a century." "So you enslaved us," Alan said. "We contained you," the alien corrected. "Ancient predictions warned of humans. They said your species would either save the galaxy or destroy it. And you chose to believe we would destroy it," Thexler said. Bridge shook as explosions rocked the ship. Through the viewports, they could see Council vessels firing on each other as the rebellion spread. "Your rule is ending," Alan told Zextara. "Not just on Earth, but everywhere." The following hours saw fierce fighting throughout the solar system. As more Council ships turned against their masters, Zextara was forced to order a retreat. The remaining loyal vessels fled toward the edge of the system, pursued by former enforcers now fighting for freedom. On Earth, people emerged from hiding to watch the lights of battle in the night sky. When word came that Zextara had escaped but his forces were retreating, celebrations erupted worldwide. In the months that followed, representatives from dozens of worlds arrived on Earth. Some had been Council enforcers, others subjugated species. All sought to build something new from the ashes of the Council's rule. Greg Foster led the diplomatic efforts, working to form a true galactic cooperative based on mutual respect and aid. Susan Miller shared human technology freely while studying the advances other species offered. 1 year after the battle, Alan West stood on a platform at the new United Earth spaceport, watching the launch of humanity's first independently built interstellar ship. Beside him stood Susan, Greg, Lisa, and Thexlor. "We've come so far," Susan said quietly. Alan nodded. "And we have so far yet to go." The ship rose on a column of blue flame, carrying a crew of humans and allied species. Its mission, exploration and peaceful contact, not conquest. As it disappeared, into the clouds, Alan thought about Zextara's words. Humans would either save the galaxy or destroy it. The Council had chosen fear and oppression. Humanity had chosen a different path. They had broken their chains not just for themselves but for countless beings across the stars. And in doing so, perhaps they had begun to fulfill the ancient prediction, not as destroyers, but as liberators.